Is this Scythe 2.0? Is this the Rise of Fenris's bigger and better brother? Let's get into it. Hello!
Welcome to Bad at Board Games.
Well, he's bad at board games.
It's true.
It is, very much so.
I'm Brad Lake.
I'm Toph Ferguson.
And we're bad at board games, so you don't have to be annoyed by Toph being with you.
I'm starting to be less and less annoyed at my friend as we do these introductions. It's taking a lot of therapy, but I'm going to get there. Okay, this is bad. I'm going to have to find a therapist to talk through that one.
There's just a button. I don't have to touch him.
Please don't. I like it when you do not. Very much so.
Glad you added the not to the end of that sentence.
Yeah, no, that was for emphasis. That was not for dramatic pause. But anyways, today we are talking about Expeditions, the new Stonemaier game.
Toph loves Stonemaier. You like all their games. You like a lot of their games.
I like a lot of their games.
Yeah.
Yeah, have not played them all.
Yeah, but...
Yeah.
So, let's see. Where are we going? Designer?
Yes. So, as we mentioned, this is a Stonemaier game. This, like Scythe and many of the other games, are designed by Jamie Stegmaier. The artwork with this game, similar to Scythe, is also by Jakub Brzezowski, and it is published by Stonemaier Games.
Mm-hmm. So, the theme, you're set in Scythe's fictional land, World War I, where you actually have some mechs and steampunk and all that kind of advanced-ish technology, and how it's been distributed throughout the different countries and Russia and, you know, all those you can tell what countries they are, right? You are now being bombarded with meteors, and so you're now going off, and these meteors give you extra powers and things like that. So, you know, taking the sci-fi twist even a little bit further, and we're beyond World War I.
We are.
And now we're getting bombarded by these powerful meteors that we want to go out and find and do things with. The way it looks, there's been some controversy around it, like not Photoshop, but like clip art and things. I can understand where people may say that. I think they're doing like Easter eggs in here. I don't think it's this intentional, you know, oh, I'm trying to rip things off. They do give credit where things might have been like, hey, this was inspired by this or that. You know, it still feels Scythe-y. Maybe not 100% as original, but there's things in here I like. I like the Cthulhu in the ice. I like the bear that kind of like, they're throwing some mythos and they're throwing some things in here that are from pop culture. Like if you notice and you can kind of pick these things out. I like it, but I know that there's been some controversy about the appearance. And the miniatures are nice. So, what you gonna do?
Yeah, the miniatures are. There's some that are a little weird. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, but you were mentioning like some of them don't seem Scythe, right? And you know, like 3 out of the 5 seem very much like that whole Scythe feel, and then 2 of them feel like,
where did those come from?
Yeah, it's not quite as much like the cranes and the guns and the, you know. So
it's kind of taking the cyberpunk theme, and then there's a new theme coming in.
Something. Yeah. So what do you think? Where are we at with mechanics?
Yeah, so this game is going to completely play different than Scythe. So get your Scythe mind and throw it away for just a minute. With this game, to be honest, actually, the gameplay itself, the mechanics, all of it work together in a more streamlined way. So with this game itself, you only have 4 actions. So you don't have as big of a player board to manage and all that. You have 4 things that you can do on your turn. You can move. So you will notice, just like in Scythe, there are hexagons out here. We have a grid. This is very much a grid movement game. You move 1 to 3 spaces. That's it. The difference with Scythe, you're not able to stop on a space that somebody else is in. So we're not going to talk about combat in this game at all. So grid movement, definitely a big part of it. You're always going to be moving, or a good bit of the game is going to be moving around this grid. You also have the ability to play, and this means the cards that are in your hand. So let's kind of throw this out there. This is feeling like a deck builder game. It's not a deck builder, but it has some of the same feel. You have hand management. You have cards that you're able to throw out to be able to play throughout the board. You have the resources of the cards that you're able to gather and collect that give you an income. You've got an action retrieval mechanic where you play your cards out of your hand into your play area, and then once you play them, they're done until you can retrieve all those cards back to be able to play them again later. You've got victory points. This I think is actually interesting. The cards come with modifiers on them that if you have fulfilled different objectives, you can gain additional resources. You can do additional things. So you have this kind of wild range of mechanics all thrown into this ability to play your cards from your open hand that everybody can see to your active play area. And then sometimes you're actually throwing them into what I would call more the tableau building side of the game, where you're throwing them into these different areas to do things like your upgrades that you could do, kind of like in Scythe, upgrade your mech, or fulfill quests that you may go on, or, and this is where we're going to throw the theme kind of wild out there, collect and meld meteorites. So that is kind of the play aspect. You also have another action you can do, and that is gathering. And this is where your mechs are going out and they are gathering the resources that are on the various spaces. These resources are going to be different. So you do have the ability to gain resources like workers. You have the ability to gain resources in other ways. Sometimes those are new cards. Sometimes those resources you're collecting are actions that you can take instead. So those are kind of an interesting aspect. You're again building things to pull into your resources. Very much a pool building game when it comes to the resources. And then you move into kind of the refresh and the ability to the action retrieval, collect everything, put it back, and start back over again with a new hand of cards or a better curated hand of cards. Like Scythe, this does have variable player abilities, so each of your mechs are going to play a little bit different from one character to the next. And what I do love about Scythe, this has a variable path to victory option with modifications. And so you will see that there is a row that, similar to Scythe, of objectives that you can complete, but you're also modifying them based on the number of objectives that you have completed or quests that you have gone on. The higher the quests, kind of like your popularity, your goals that you're completing, the stars you're putting out, are going to be valued at a higher or lower amount. So you kind of have all these things that are all playing together, but really it's still less mechanics than its little brother Scythe.
Yep. So kind of going in, I guess, pros and cons, right? So I like it. So I like the fact that it's a little less complicated than Scythe. The population track in Scythe, which you have to play with your multiplier, is replaced by objectives, and it caps out at, basically you can max out your multiplier. If you get 3 of the objectives, you can only have up to 4. And so on, like, I kind of like that. And so the thing that I missed in our gameplay was you're going to have objectives on the top, you're going to have upgrades on the left, on the right, your left, my right. And then you're going to have the meteorites where you meld on the bottom. I missed it. Everybody else, like, I thought I was really in contention, but I got blown away really when it came to the end. But you have to play all 3 of those tableaus, essentially, building your engine. You can't just go for one. And the game's going to go longer than you think it's going to. So you're still the game's going to finish when there's 4 or 5 stars. When
one player puts out their 4th star, it triggers the end of the game. Everybody else gets, including that player, gets one more turn.
Yeah. So you have that same kind of ending with Scythe, but you're going to be going for something, and then you're like, oh, it's going to end soon, and then it doesn't drag out in a bad way, but it's longer. So you kind of need to realize you're going to be going for multiple things at once instead of just trying to streamline. I'm going to get all the objectives, which is what I went for. I wanted to make sure I had my multiplier, but then I did that at the expense of not picking up some other things along the way.
Yeah, I like akin to Scythe, and I want to stop describing this as Scythe or comparing it to, but you have to choose different actions every single turn. So you can't really come up with this very quick push the end of the game, because you are throttled by the fact that you can only choose, or you have to choose different actions. So, for example, with this game, you cannot place your mech on a land and stay there for the entire game, blocking the ability to gather the resources or the objectives off that, because at least every other turn, you have to move. And you have to move. You can't move 0. You have to move. And you only have one mech. So this is the only player piece that you have. You don't have a character and multiple mechs or other things that you can move around. Workers, this is the only thing you have. So you have to move. So, you know, there are some things that are kind of pushing the game along from, you know, blocking other people and kind of going down those paths that you can kind of get into with other games. But at the same time, you can't push it right away. But when Brad says this game's going to go longer than what you think, it's rated at 60 to 90 minutes, and we
played beyond that. We played a 4-player game, and with the teach, it was close to 3 hours.
Yeah.
So
and we're all players that like are moving along.
I don't think we were slow.
No, there wasn't a lot of like AP and stuff.
So I would say like this is underrated for that time, but I don't know if it's not a con for me. Honestly, it didn't end up being a con.
No, not at all. We all enjoyed it. Yeah. I really, you know, of all of this, that immediately my mind was disappointed because I didn't think it looked like Scythe at all, and that's what I wanted. When it came to how you play, absolutely loved it. I mean, that's probably my favorite thing, and that's one of the things I love about Scythe too, is you have to continue to change it. And the way this works, it's so simple, but it's at the same time so limiting and complex, and you got to really plan out your engine well.
Yeah, I would say like another pro I like the simplicity of I'm going to place my chit on top of here, and then I get to do the other 2 actions. And then at some point in the game, when I've kind of spent all my cards, and you don't get, it's not like a normal deck builder where I got a ton of cards. Well, if you play that way, you can, but I didn't. I only had maybe 3 or 4 cards. When I used them, then I kind of had to refresh. Otherwise, I wasn't going to be able to use even one of the actions on there. So it's kind of this, you're going to do this, and then you're going to refresh and start over. And then when you refresh the next turn, you get all 3 actions. So it's kind of like every once in a while, you're going to get to move, play a card, and gather. And so you're kind of like, do I try to do that now, or do I wait until the next turn? You know, somebody went right where I wanted to go. I'm going to refresh this turn. So hopefully I can then move. They're going to move on their turn, and then I'll move, gather, and play a card on the spot because, you know, I wasn't able to do it this turn.
Yeah, you have to be strategic as to when you take that refresh, because the refresh sets you back. You can't do any actions that turn other than refresh your pool, your cards and your workers, because your workers aren't living out here. They're just a pool, a resource you're using to add to the cards. So you got to play that, but when you do, it is kind of cool. You get everything all at one time.
And I liked, another pro for me was, this wasn't hard to learn. I really don't feel like, I mean, I think you took maybe a little bit longer with the teach, but it wasn't, like, I think you could start having people move and they would pick it up as you play versus having to spend a half an hour telling everybody what everything is. It was one of these games I'm like, well, you could probably just tell me like, okay, you got to move. And then when you go here and, you know, you have a nice little cheat sheet that tells you what all the icons are, and you're going to have workers that you can use, that if you have that color worker, you can play on the card. When you play it, it gives you a boon, right? So yay, like, okay, I've got a worker on my tableau. I move them over here to my card. Lets me do something more. It's not difficult. So that was nice, but it doesn't mean it wasn't a puzzle and a intriguing, like where am I going to go, and how am I going to get this, and how am I going to get my stars out? Because that's essentially what you're doing. You want to be able to pick a path to be able to get your 5 stars out before anybody else. 4 stars, whatever.
Size is 5. We get that confused a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. I love how, what's the word I want to use? It's almost like everything in this game has multiple purposes to it, or multiple uses to it. And I really do like that a lot. You've got 3 types of cards in the game. You've got quest cards, you've got the actual meteorite cards, and then you've got items, and they each serve a purpose. Quest will give you the ability to go on the quest and fulfill them. Your items will give you some boon right away in the game, but then you can also make it an upgrade to your mech, and then it's always there. It's this advantage that you don't have to spend workers to actually get the advantage. And then the meteorites, the way that they just build on themselves, so they give you a small economic bonus usually, and then the next time you meld another meteorite, you get to do all of them, and so now you're
so
building
you get
up
this chaining action.
Yeah, I really like that a lot.
Yeah.
And the cards are really cool. I mean, the artwork looks amazing, but the cards are cool in that they give you some type of income at the top, which is going to, be your resources you're using. And then, as Brad said, if you have the worker, then you're going to get the ability at the bottom. And it's just really kind of cool to explore those and see them come up, because you can really, it's an engine building, but as Brad said, it's kind of tight. You had the least amount of cards the whole game, but at the same time, Brad was immediately going on quests. And when you have those quests or the items that you upgrade or the meteorites you meld, you take them out of your hand, out of your control, and you add them to your player board. You can never use them again.
Yeah, so instead of like trying to keep that quest alive and use that card over and over, I was immediately trying to complete it. I was picking up quests and then trying to complete it because just like the meteorites, you get everything. You get some bonuses if I've done 2 objectives and 3 objectives and 4 objectives. You kind of get all of that stuff at once. But like I said, the thing I did is I went laser focus on objectives, and I should have been picking up an objective and then a meteorite and then an upgraded card, and then kind of somehow like that, because everybody finished in the 90s and I finished at like 45 or 50. And I never felt like I was doing bad. I thought I was doing very well. And it was real shock to me to see that I had blown the game by that many points. So you may or may not like hidden point values in games, but it doesn't bother me one way or the other. But I didn't have a clue, and it probably was nice that I didn't have a clue that I was that far behind. I probably would have been like, well, I'm just going to go through the motions. So yeah, that's one side of not knowing you're getting stomped, is that, hey, I think I'm doing pretty good.
And to be honest, I thought I wasn't doing very well because I was more concerned with kind of the teach, and then because I'd played it solo. I hadn't played it competitively. I'd played it solo, but I wanted to make sure everybody else was understanding it and engaged in playing, and then I ended up doing much better than I thought. Brad and I still came in last place. Of course, Ashby and Derek beat us, but we still, I ended up scoring a lot higher than I thought I would.
Well, you were only 1 point behind Derek?
I was, yeah. It was a matter of,
it was like 93 and 92, and Ashby got like 99.
Ashby had 99, and I think Derek and I had 91, 92 respectively. So
and then I was at like 49.
Yeah. Brad was still like, he was in the Americas while we were in Europa playing. So
I didn't make it there. So.
There are a handful of other things I do like about the game. I won't go into all of my pros, all of our cons, but I do enjoy the corruption aspect.
Yeah.
This is a new thing with this environment, so I didn't know if I'd enjoy it, and it really was cool.
You have these tiles, and you're going to pull them out of the bag. When you flip over one of these tiles, it'll tell you how many corruption minimum go on there. So you pull out enough numbers until you hit that corruption level or higher. And you can't use that gathering ability that's underneath it until you get rid of the corruption. And I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy it. But it ended up being this puzzle that was like, okay, and if you get enough corruption, every time you're clearing one of these, you're getting some extra points. And if you clear enough, you can get a star. So it was another way to get a star out. And I ended up kind of like, oh, I'm enjoying this. Now I started a little too late, I think, but I was going for and trying to get a star out to get 7 of these. I got like 6, but I liked it. I mean, it's a blocker for a more powerful action on that square, and you may not be able to get rid of all of these. So if there's one that's stacked up 2 or 3, you may get rid of one, and then that allows somebody else. So we were all kind of trying to play this kind of chess game where I don't want to get rid of that because I don't want Toph to come behind me and now he can get the special ability. So it was interesting how it was playing out. And then they're 2 different colors. So you have 2 tracks, and are you going to give up your strength, or are you going to give up kind of your, I call it intelligence? And then I can't do other things with those. So it was an interesting puzzle layered onto this gathering of resources and tracks and trying to get stars.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
I agree. I liked it.
I thought it was really cool. I like the idea of the exploration as well, because when you set up the board, only the Southlands are shown. The central region and the northern regions are not. They're upside down. And so you have no idea what you're going to get until you get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think the exploration part of it was all that exciting for me. It was this idea of the corruption, of what is going to show up and what am I going to have to do now in order to get the good benefit off of these cards.
Yeah.
And that was cool, I thought.
Yeah, I don't think the exploration was any more than a mechanic for me, because there's a token, they call them a map token, which is just a compass rose. You get 5 of those, you get, or is it 5?
It's 5, yeah.
5 of those, you can have a star out. So I went for that, and so because I was like, okay, this will be an easy one to get. So it was more like, I don't care what's underneath it. You kind of need to find these things to do the quest, because every tile has a number on it, and for the quests you have to go to that tile to complete that quest. So I did want to open those up because I was pushing quests anyway, but then at the same time I was like, I want to get this so that I can get another star out. So I was hoping to be able to get these 2.
Yeah.
I guess the one con I had, and I don't know if you have any more pros, but I didn't like the fact I could only get 1 star out at a time. Like, I got stuck where I was like, I could have had 2 stars out in one turn, but the game doesn't let you do that. And I can kind of understand why they do, but at the same time, I didn't like that.
Yes. So this is one of the areas that I think a lot of people are going to probably have conversations about. And again, comparing it to Scythe, or many other games similar to this, when you fulfill an objective, you immediately are able to, Scythe, place your star, or in the other games, kind of claim it in some way, shape, or form. With expeditions, you can't. You go out, and thematically, I guess it makes sense. You're going out on these expeditions, you're exploring the lands, but the only way that you're going to be able to put out your stars is by boasting, which we had a lot of fun with at our table.
Yeah, you could then like, I am boasting that I now have 7 people.
And I didn't even think of that. Like, playing solo, it didn't come up. And then all of a sudden, of course, Ashby was the first place to star. And he boasted, and he was just like, everybody at the table, please quiet. I am over here boasting that I am doing this. And he just kind of played it up. And then from that point on, we all did, which was fun. But in order to be able to boast, you have to be able to get to one of these spaces that has the star, or you have to find the very rare card that allows you to boast, which is probably not going to come up in most of your games. So in other words, you have to get to these tiles. The stars, the boast, is always going to be under corruption. So now you got to move the corruption away, and then you can take your ability, and you can only boast one thing at a time. So the only way you can multitask that is if you are able to, with your character, clear the last of the corruption, which allows you to automatically get what's at the bottom, and then you also have the gather ability open on your board, which allows you to then gather that resource again.
Yeah, and I'm fine with all of that, but once I get there, I feel like I should be able to complete as many stars. Like, if I had 3 racked up and I got there, I could be able to put 3 out. Like, I just wish, and I know that could kind of be like, I'm hiding it, and then I'm going to like land and a bunch of people don't have it. But like, the mere fact that you don't get the star immediately and you have to travel to the place should key people into, okay, he hasn't done it in a while. I can already see that he's got this, and this. He's trying to push and trigger the end of game, you know, or at least I don't know what it was, but because I had to move off that space again, I couldn't really go back and get that second star for quite a while. Otherwise, it was going to slow me down, because you have to keep moving and doing this and going for the different stars. So it kind of gave me I just wish I could have done both the stars in one shot.
I think that's one of the things that slows this game down.
Yeah.
Is that it's few and far between where you're going to find these boast actions. And then when you get there, you're realistically only going to be able to do 1. And in order to put out 4 cards or 4 stars, that's now extending the gameplay for quite a bit, because we're all battling for the same thing. Yeah. The board does not scale from 1 to 5 players.
It's the same board, and there's only 2 spots to complete it. And then nobody wants to clear these to get a star. at least until, they have one. And then it's like, do I wait until other people clear it, or am I going to waste, mine? It ends up being this thing, but that definitely is why the game went longer.
I think it is. I really think it is. And that's the one big con that I think I have. There are parts of it that really work, but at the same time, if I am able to get 7 workers on my board, which is one of the star categories, one of the ways to be able to put a star out, victories, I feel like I should be able to do that with that. And that's, either way, it's good. It's thematic, I think. Maybe it plays well. It really does extend the gameplay, I think, a little bit, maybe too long.
Yeah. So. What's the weight rating of this?
Yeah, so this is rated currently on BGG at 2.93. I don't know if that's accurate.
Seems high.
It seems very high.
I don't know about very high, but I think it's high. I don't think it's a 2.
No, this is not a 2, but I see this more at somewhere like a 2.4, 2.5. There's a lot going on. Maybe this is my bias of I play a lot of engine building games, but I didn't find the difficulty in this game, complexity in this game.
Yeah, I think it's a pro because like I said, it was easy to learn. I don't think it was like overly, like Scythe is harder to learn. Scythe is longer. Scythe, but like I enjoyed this. I thought there's enough of a puzzle. You're still having to think, and how am I going to optimize my action selection, right? But at the same time, I don't. I use Castles of Burgundy it's a 3, so I don't think this is this. They're basically saying this is rounding to a 3. I think Castles of Burgundy is more complex and deeper than this game.
Very much so.
So to me, this is in that 2.5 range. In comparison to that, because to me it's like, is it as complex as Castles of Burgundy? Yes or no, and then I go from there. That's kind of my go-to for the weight scale. Yeah,
don't get us wrong. There are things going on. You are having to think in different ways of engine building, but it's not. I don't agree with that rating. I think somewhere around a 2.4, 2.5. That's where I'm going to be putting it. So. Yeah, so that's the weight. What about the value?
So this is Toph's game. You can pick this up on the different markets for $70. It's going to cost you about $75 from Stonemaier directly. And then if you want the metal miniatures, looks like you can get that for around $100. I like the game. I think, and this may be just trying to understand where games are going to end up. So you're paying for Stonemaier. There's a premium for the name. You're paying for the premium name of Scythe and where it sits and, on the top of the BGG rankings. You're paying for the art, like there are things in here that make this just more expensive to even make, right? It's a bigger box. It's not thick, but this is a tall box. So it's not standard size. You're not going to set this up this way in a Calyx shelf, so those manufacturing costs add up. I think it's a $60 game and they're charging us $70 for. So, it's a 3 minus, but I think this is a good game. I almost like Scythe you can get it now for around the same price, right? Or has it gone up as well?
Stonemaier has Scythe like MSRP at $95.
Okay, so it's gone up. So and that's what I'm saying, like, and maybe my brain hasn't caught up to like prices things cost more now, right? So, I don't think it's a bad value. I don't think it's an exceptional value. If this were $50, I'd say like this is a 4.5. But at $70, it's probably about where we're going to start seeing good, decent quality games show up. So.
Yeah, I mean, you've got wooden. I have the standard. I did not do the metal mechs. You've got wooden tiles. You've got very nice
plastic miniatures.
Yeah, plastic miniatures. You only have 5 of them, so you don't have the huge array that you get with Scythe and the expansions, but you get 5 of them. They're
and
nice.
The screen printing is very clean. It's very precise. Like, it's a good quality game.
Yeah, good quality. It comes with a pretty good insert. Those things are nice. I will say this about the value, and well, 2 things. Being a Stonemaier champion, I got a discount off of the game that I liked. So that helped me feel like I got more value out of it after I started playing it. I do not think $30 is worth just getting the mechs as metal mechs.
Yeah,
you don't get any other upgrades. You don't get the metal coins. Like Scythe, Stonemaier has these exact same artwork coins come in your base game of Scythe. You can buy the metal coins to add into it. Why didn't metal coins come with the metal mechs and the upgrade? That would have made it worth it. I don't think.
And I think it's going to be easier if you're wanting to paint them. Like, get the plastic.
Yeah.
So don't get the metal if you're going to paint them. It really wouldn't be worth it in that case either. The
metal mechs probably look amazing, but I am going to paint this. That's part of why I immediately jumped on this. Was I painted Scythe. I want this one as it. So I don't know. I think it's a little high, but it's Stonemaier. It is accurate for Stonemaier game pricing. If anything, it's probably on the lower side of Stonemaier pricing for their games, but you're getting a lot less in this than you would in Scythe in the base game. Or the other games, Tapestry, or some of the other ones too. Yeah. So, anyways.
So BGG rating, I like this better than Scythe. So I enjoyed it. I know Toph was like, I didn't have any expectations for this. I didn't have any expectations for Expedition, but I didn't think it was going to be Scythe 2 or anything like Scythe. I just thought it was okay. It's in the same realm, and we'll see what it is and what they do. I've been pleasantly surprised with it. My rating, I'm going to put this at an 8. I like it. I would recommend it. I think price-wise it's a little high, so that's kind of, my recommendation is an 8. Doesn't tell you should go and buy it, but I would recommend it. I think it's a good game. If you don't like Scythe, I think you would potentially like this, because I'm not a huge Scythe fan, mainly because how long for me it can take, and I'm not great at that mechanic. I'm just not. So this one, I didn't, even though I got beat badly, I understood the game. I understood what I was doing. It's like, okay, I made some strategic errors. I'll pick that up when we play it more and more and more. I can get better at this. So I'm at an 8.
Okay.
Scythe's one of your favorite games of all time. I don't expect this to be Scythe 2.0 for you.
So let me start by saying,
where's Scythe on your top 100 list?
Where is Scythe? It's within my top 5.
Yeah, so take this into consideration.
Yeah, and I have Scythe rate. Should I tell you what my BGG rating for Scythe is?
It's a 10, isn't it?
It might be a 10. It's a 9.5 or a 10.
Yeah.
Scythe base game was a 9. When we started getting the expansions, the Fenris especially put it really to 9.5, 10, something like that. When I first heard of this, I thought new expansion, which Jamie Stegmaier said there is not going to be another expansion to Scythe. Okay, fine. This is the new expansion to Scythe. This is Scythe 2.0. Like, that's exactly, the theme takes place where the Rise of Fenris ends. This picks up as the next part of the story. I am expecting something like the Rise of Fenris. And it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
It's in the realm of Scythe.
It matches the theme. Yeah, it matches
but it's just a new game.
Yeah.
It's a new game.
There are things that really have almost disappointed me with it. Some of the icons, like the sweep icon where you can kind of get rid of cards and add new cards out, is clip art. It's a broom, clip art. Like, it is Disney. Like, they took, what's that Disney with the broom? They took a screenshot of it, and that's the cartoon that's printed on cards, where you have this kind of realistic picture in this, this wild world.
Ultra realistic Cthulhu in the ice, and then cartoonish icons.
Yes.
However,
that kills me.
However, people would be complaining if that was ultra realistic. I can't see the icons very well. Like, there's no win.
Well, but I'm okay with almost all of the other icons. It is that stupid broom. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh, that just cheapens it. I think that those little things are kind of playing into it. I don't know. I feel like it takes the theme out of it. And I guess that's because I came into it with a bias of Scythe is one of my favorite games. I absolutely love it. I play it solo. I play it with people. I play with friends. I've played through the Rise of Fenris campaign. I love it. And I expected this to be that, and it's not. And it's still fun to play. I enjoy it. I've enjoyed the plays. I really enjoyed it solo. A lot more than I thought I would. But for me, this is a 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's our opinion on it. I do want to, because we kind of skipped over it. Give us a little quick rundown on solo. How do you like it for our solo players? How would you rate it? You know, is it still a 7 out of 10 for solo play, or did you enjoy it and it played quickly, took too long?
So it played very well. And if you're used to playing Scythe solo, I kind of got similar feel to it. One thing I really liked about the solo variant of this is you have 2 mechs that are being controlled by the automa. And they are all they're doing is just walking around the board in kind of a circle pattern, but they are blocking spaces and they are doing things like they are sometimes exploring and giving you the inability to explore and take a map token. Map tokens are a little bit more important, I think, in solo than they are in the competitive play. I thought it played very well. Again, I was disappointed because of the theme and stuff like that, but I think this was so much easier to pick up in solo than Scythe was, and this is almost quicker. It's not quicker for me it's quicker for me to pull this out and put it on the table than Scythe because of having the legendary box and having it organized in a way that has everything all over the place. Scythe, for me, unfortunately, takes a while to pull out of the box to play. This doesn't, because there's not as much going on in it. The base game, I think it sets up faster, but for me, this set up very quickly in terms of a solo play, and I was immediately playing it. It was easy to understand how that works. So maybe if I was only soloing this, no, it'd still be a 7. I don't think it would be any higher. But the solo play was quite enjoyable, and it didn't. Yeah, there wasn't much of a shift between solo and competitive play.
Awesome. So let us know what you think down below. We love interacting with you. We'd like to know, are we hitting the spot? Are you interested in this? Have you already bought it? Have you played it solo? Played it with your friends? Where are you at? Scythe lover? Not interested? Maybe interested now that you've heard our take on it. So
yeah, we would love to know. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. And if you are not sitting at the table regularly with us to hear us banter as friends and sometimes, I don't know, maybe get our ratings wrong compared to what other people feel, we'd love to have you hanging around with us. So consider subscribing to the channel.
Yep. And just remember, no matter how you play, whether it's solo, with family, or friends,
enjoy whatever games you are bringing to the table.
Have a great night.
Bye.